Easton. Hello, everybody. Hey, PJ. Hey, Crime and Crochet. Hey, JR Nana. Thank you guys for being here and being the first ones in here chit-chatting. So we're going to give it a few minutes, let everybody gather around. And tonight we are going to look into Jodi Hildebrandt and a little bit more into, hey, Trike, a little bit more into the connections group and some of these people that are speaking out. PJ, what do you mean earlier? If you went live earlier, I'm sorry. I was actually at home tonight. Hold on one second. Sorry, PJ. I took the afternoon and we cooked and cleaned, and I'm no longer on mute. I muted myself so that nobody had to hear all of them.
Be quiet.
My kids are yelling up there, "Mom, you're on mute." Yeah, I muted so they didn't have to hear y'all. So, anyways, so we're going to look at Jodi Hildebrandt, and following along with the last live, we went into some of the videos that had been put out by Ruby Frank and their family vlog, and a few things that I had said as someone who watched those from the beginning of their start in 2015, that I really felt like issues did not really begin, like the severe issues, like some things that people find an issue with, I don't. So, but like the serious issues, the physical abuse and the real trauma did not start, I felt like, until 2021 when they joined Connections. But before we get into Jodi's background and some disturbing things that we are going to process about Jodi, we are going to I'm going to go over a few things that I keep forgetting to mention when I do go live. So book update, you guys. So we are working on our pre-sales. The pre-sales will be done through the website. The pre-sales are going to be for you guys. My pre-sales are going to be for an exclusive only. Right now, I'm not going to put the paperback on there. I'm not going to put, like, you'll be able to get the paperback from Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that. But on the website, we are going to do a pre-order for the book. It will be available in time for Christmas, so you'll have your stocking stuffers, you guys. So we are working on getting that loaded. The exclusive hardcover will be available soon for you guys to see that. And along with this exclusive hardcover, you will also receive my signature, my author signature, as well as stenciled edges, sprayed edges by me. And if you are not sure what I am referring to, I will see if one of the kids will be sweet and go grab me one of my books that is special, that is sprayed edges, so you guys can get an idea. But the details of that will come when we release the photo of the hardcover design. So for right now, it's only going to be exclusive hardcover, sprayed edges, signed edition. So And then you'll be able to get your, but that's going to help go, like the reason we're going to go ahead and start that is so that we can work on getting everything lined up for the studio so that we can get in there and get that Audible going, because all of this still costs money to do. Like, so. Oh yeah, teachers do get a discount at Barnes and Nobles. So that is that. Don't forget, you guys, that on the website you can, and Kristen can drop the link to the website that has all of our merch on there. In my collection, it is book inspired. It is not inspired like personal items inspired by me. My scents are not inspired by me. My scents are inspired by the characters in the book, and each character, like each book, has new characters and new scents each time. But right now, Daxton and Linen scents are available, and those are available in different categories. I have shirts available on my website that are done through a friend of mine. You can click on the link. It takes you directly to her website, and you can order through there, and then she tallies up at the end of the month. But the t-shirts are designed by me, and they do have a little bit of like, there's a little signature, a hidden signature per se, in the photo, in the images. So, trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. Am I forgetting anything? Kristen, if I forgot something, remind me and I'll come back to it. So I want to start out by saying that also Kevin's attorney spoke out again on what is going on, with a little bit more detail than what we got the first time. The first time that Kevin's attorney spoke out, it was right after they had their first initial court hearing, not the one that we watched last week. There was one privately where they came together and discussed with the judge and attorneys and all of that separately. And so there was not much from that first interview, but in today's release, the attorney does give a little bit more details. And again, Jodi seems to be the mastermind of a lot of things. So let's get in it. I want to start with watching Jodi's niece, Jessie Hildebrandt. Jodi's niece. Oh, you're fine, Kristen. She did an interview, and it's about, I think, 18 minutes long, 28 minutes long. We're going to break it down, you guys, because if you haven't seen it, it's a bit disturbing, and it's sad, and it's, yeah. So I'm going to drop the link for you guys, and that way it is in the chat. Oh, thank you, Muse. I don't know, today, I had a day yesterday where I sulked all day, and today I was like, nope, I only allowed myself one day, and today we are back in normal, and yeah. And plus, I thought I was going on a date. On me. Right below you. So I'm going to go ahead and start this video. I have to take this phone call. I'll be back.
Spoke to, or in a way heard from Jodi? Has it been a long time?
It's been a long time. I think it was a family member's wedding, like probably over a decade ago.
You were also under her care at one point, right?
Yeah, I was left in her care when I was a teenager, for a little under a year.
Have you met Ruby before?
No, I've never met Ruby. This is the first time I've ever heard of her. I have gone and watched at least some of her videos. They're very difficult to watch just for my own experience with that form of therapy or therapy. It's quite triggering, to be honest. So I've never met her, but the things that she is saying and regurgitating are very, very familiar to me. It's interesting to watch I understand this, but it's interesting to watch the world respond to her and kind of putting her at the forefront. And I understand that she's the mother of these children, and it makes sense. But the philosophies and the therapeutic modalities that she's using are Jody's. And these are not new. These are not, this is a pattern that Jody has been engaged with for at least 14 years. I don't know if there are other people that she's used these on, but she's definitely taught. I know that she teaches parents to use these types of therapies, as she would call them. So yeah, it's been a really interesting experience watching everyone focus on Ruby, and I understand why, but this is Jody. These are Jody's words. These are Jody's ideas. These are over decades old. So yeah.
Is that why you've called Jody the mastermind behind all of this?
Yes. That doesn't excuse Ruby's involvement and her perpetuating these beliefs and these systems, but Ruby didn't come up with this. Ruby obviously supports it and has used these on her children, but this is coming from Jody.
In short, can you describe what you mean? Like, which practices are you talking about, just to make sure we're clear, because I know there's a lot out there. So which ones are you talking about that you've seen, that you're hearing about pertaining to her children, that you're familiar with too?
Sure, yeah. So the things that I experienced while living with Jody, I experienced being tied, I experienced being duct taped, I experienced being blindfolded, I experienced severe isolation, I experienced severe emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse. I experienced the being told I shouldn't be around other people, being told that I was dangerous to be around. People were afraid of me to the point where I was afraid of myself. I was physically, I was forced to sleep outside in the snow. I was, like I said, isolated for up to 12 hours a day. If someone spoke to me directly, if I wasn't wearing duct tape on my mouth, I had to just stare at them and not respond, because she also had systems of people that would report back to her if I broke any of these rules. And her whole thing, which is deeply, darkly ironic, is that everything stems from shame, and how horrible shame is, and that all of the reason, like all of mental illness, all tics, so like OCDs, addiction, everything stems from shame, which is just horrifying, because she is the greatest perpetuator of shame.
Ellen. Yes. Okay, so we are only just a few moments into this interview. This is Jessie Hildebrandt, which is Jody Hildebrandt's niece. Jessie was sent to live with Jody and go through Jody's program for, I don't even know for what. I mean, just crazy reasons. Something that I don't think a lot, I mean, like I said this like last week in the interview, that I felt like Jody was behind a lot of the issues. Yes, Ellen, it does. But this is not the only person that we're going to hear from tonight. this is just so heartbreaking that you could do this. Not, I mean, like, I don't even know if Jody has children of her own, you guys. That's what's crazy. But Jody was like, the church was the one who was was sending her these children and these families, and all of this was being sent through the Mormon church, the church of LDS, to Jody. I don't know what the LDS church was thinking or whatever, but they are the money behind connections. They are the ones that say, "Oh, here, we've got you another case." Okay. Oh, my camera's frozen. Oops. Let's see. Is it still frozen? After today's interview, I'm not so angry with Kevin, which is what I figured. And I didn't really go into it until I could, like, I didn't really want to talk on the Kevin situation until I knew about the Kevin situation, where he had been, what had happened. And so we'll get to that at the end of this. But I want to finish going through Jesse's and the other young man that has spoken out about, I don't know what's going on with the camera. So we're just not going to have a camera, you guys. I wonder.
Yeah. Yep, somebody call. That was a bunch of them. Yeah.
Okay. Is it working? I'm not frozen over here, but it wasn't letting me do anything. So, hey, MJ, you're good. We're just getting started, girlfriend. Sorry, that is the football team that is
Yep.
making noise over here. And as you can tell, I'm not happy with it. But anyways, okay. So yeah, we fixed it. I think it's working, right? All right, so let me share my screen again. And we'll,
Yeah, but I never. That's crazy. I never left my screen.
She accused me of being a sex addict. She accused me of being addicted to masturbation, to the point where I wasn't allowed to, I mentioned this on the podcast, to the point where I wasn't allowed to use tampons. I never was allowed privacy unless I was isolated. So that included the bathroom. I was never allowed to have the door closed. I had never seen porn at that point in my life. I didn't even know that people with my anatomy could masturbate. Like I had no idea any of this stuff, but I just believed her because everything, like one, she used religion and God as a mode of control, and a mode to manipulate. And so I just believed all of these things. So her ability to convince you of these
mm-mm. Sorry, this thing is being crazy over here. Like it is like, I don't know what, if it's StreamYard or YouTube, but one of the two is like glitching bad. But this is MJ. This is Jody's niece, and she was the first one to do an interview after this went down, and this is the interview, and it is horrific.
these neuroticisms and these behaviors is, and I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And so a child in that position of being told this over and over and over and over again, which I'm certain he was, stood no chance. She also, because of what the abuse and torturing that was going on, and the belief that she had that I was doing something more. So her rationale to the severity of these punishments and this physical and emotional abuse was, she wanted to make my life, and this is like her quote, like this is what she would tell me all of the time. She wanted to make my life so uncomfortable that it would force the sin out, that it would force me to confess. So things continuously got worse and worse and progressively more and more intense as a way to get me to confess, because she believed that if I had confessed everything, if all of my sins were out and in the open, that I would be getting better. And I was declining like very fast, exponentially. And so she just kept ramping it up. And so to hear Ruby tell the world that her child is a sex addict, a predator, and has been addicted to porn since he was 3 years old, it just echoes exactly the things that she was telling me and telling everyone around me. And I know that I think I don't know if I got this right, but I'm pretty sure that she's saying that he even confessed to it. Well, I also confessed to things that I didn't do as a way of trying to get the abuse to stop. Because when she's like drilling it into you both psychologically and physically that there's more, and it will stop once you tell her Because that's what she would tell you. Like in the middle of the abuse, she'd be like, I'll stop as soon as you tell me. As soon as you tell me what's going on, like what you did. Oh, she was also convinced that I had abortions. She was convinced she made me do 12-step because she was convinced I was an addict, like a drug addict as well. I'd never done drugs. I had never had sex. Again, I didn't know that masturbation was even possible. I had no idea what these things were. So I just started making things up as a way, as like trying to get this to stop, because I had no one there to help me and to save me. And I think I even said that on the podcast, that I was making things up. And when I spoke to the detective,
I don't know, you guys. I'm glad that Jesse has been able to come. I don't know what's going on with the camera, you guys. I'm glad that Jesse has been able to like come and I'm sure it's healing at this point to be able to like really be able to talk about these things. And she's going to go further into detail and she's going to tell you about going to the church about these things. So can you guys hear me at least? Ellen, please tell me you at least heard everything I said.
No,
But Jesse, literally, she's gonna like, she straight out of the gate. She said, "This is Jody. This is all Jody. This is Jody's mastermind. Her plan to make everyone." I mean, it's point blank and simple. It's a cult. It's a cult. Connections is a cult. It is branched off from. It is a branch off of the Mormon Church, but the church funds it. They're the funding behind it. So let's watch some more of what Jesse has to say.
Down in St. George days ago, I told her that as well. It's like and so even if he had confessed, it cannot be taken seriously, because this child was being tortured. And I'm certain that she echoed those words of like, if you tell me, I will stop. So what is happening, it just echoes so close to home of what she did to me. And the repercussions, the emotional and physical repercussions of those actions, like the fact that she can, because the thing that's so sinister about this is that it can't be disproven. So even if like she goes to prison, his name is cleared, it will never be fully cleared because it cannot be disproven. So this is going to potentially follow him for the rest of his life. So even with those children being taken out of her care, she is still abusing them. And so with whatever is happening, whatever did happen, I can guarantee you it's not what she's saying.
Keep It Quilted means you keep it the best. Keep It Quilted means comfort that feels good and does good. With 5 million trees.
Okay. Okay, let's try it now, you guys. Because the kiddos are sending me.
With a cryptic hard drive.
No, I normally have no issues with my service whatsoever, but it keeps freezing tonight. It's still, I don't know. I don't know what is going on. I don't know. Don't care.
Like out what they do.
That's the kind of mood I'm in today.
Come on, high rise.
classroom. If it's even close, then I mean, I'm certain that there's going to be parallels. I know that she believes that all shame should be punished. And I know that like that. So like, I wouldn't be surprised. I really don't know. I've stayed away as much as possible from her and her world, to just heal and to try to salvage any life that I could possibly live, post living with her.
With that said, it sounds like this wasn't really a secret, though. Obviously, you knew about these teachings. Other people in her family, probably both families I've been hearing, knew about some of these practices or had heard of. Why do you think it took to 2023 for a child to escape, go to a neighbor's house, call 911, and now this is a thing? Like, why did it take this long?
I think it's a combination of quite a few things. One, the church supports her. She's been promoted by the church, and people trust the church. Members trust their bishops, they trust their stake presidents, and a lot of these people, most people that are going to therapy, if not all, are in a vulnerable position. And she is remarkably convincing. She is also terrifying if you cross her, because she has and will systematically destroy your life. She destroys your reputation. She destroys any of your credibility. So even because there are definitely people that have been speaking out against her. I mean, she lost her license because of someone speaking out in 2012. Like, she's not just, everyone's not just been like, okay, yeah, for sure, fair game, free for all. People have been criticizing her. That's just that no one has listened. Because one, we have a culture of people not believing children and not trusting children. And also children trust their parents, and then the parents trust the church. So there's been, and Jodi, what she does that's so tricky is that she utilizes and uses whatever is available. So if you go to her with OCD, if you go to her with severe depression, she'll use that information as a way of control. Oh, you have OCD because you have deep-rooted shame. And those tics are happening because the shame has nowhere to go. And so it's coming out in this neuroticism. And then, or let's say like, you told her that you lied, which is a normal human thing that we've all done. That doesn't make you a liar.
What? Okay, first of all, like, I don't. So some of the things that, like, yes, Ellen, we're gonna go into. We're gonna watch that one as well, but like some of the things that like really are confusing to me is like this shame thing and this distortion, and those are the biggest things that she like teaches, I guess, or manipulates people into believing this distortion. They live this life of distortion, and I have no words for this leader.
Oh, well, you lied. You're a liar. Now everything you say is a lie, and you can't be trusted. And she also separates people. She keeps people so they can't talk and corroborate. Like, it is so vile and tricky and ingenious. Like, Jodi is.
If you don't want to lose it, just give it to me. I don't
she is a very unwell person. I don't know her exact diagnoses, but I know that she's been diagnosed with a plethora of things. And yeah, so it's devastating, because I went forward as well. I mean, I went to the police when I was 16. I tried to do what I could, and no one believed me, because why would they? She destroyed my credibility. I was an angry teenager, and now I'm just you're just like an emotional, angry teenager that And she had told people that I destroyed my family's life, that I destroyed my dad's life, that every person I come in contact, I destroy. So she sets up the premise. And then when I come forward and try to tell people, like, this is what's happening, she can be like, oh, see, Jesse's trying to destroy my life is what they do. It just all adds up. So she's so good at protecting those loopholes and discrediting people.
Is that why you think maybe other members of both families still won't speak out publicly about this right now and are staying quiet? Or do you think it's a fear thing or just want to stay out of it? Is there any thought process on that?
I can't speak to why people aren't. I know the culture of my family. I think that it's probably probably a number of things. Some people, I think it's just that they themselves have been harmed so much by her, and they want to stay. They just want to live their life and not be dragged into this. Other members, it could be fear. I can't say. All I can say, and again, the only reason why I'm coming forward, I was not planning on coming forward to the media other than just doing the podcast interview, is when I heard that Ruby accused her child of this, because and I just hope that this can give the public some context and some clarity of what is happening and why they should not believe her.
Okay, so last week when we were looking into the videos of Ruby and the ones that she had posted and the changes that took place over that several years, because they started in 2021 was when things turned bad for the family. I mentioned that Kevin, I didn't want to like really speak on the Kevin thing until I knew more about it. And I also mentioned the sisters, and how I just felt like if we're going to go off of Ruby's past videos from the beginning, then we also have to look at the sisters' videos, because they are the same. And so if we have enough time, I do want to look at the sisters. It's not an interview. She made a public statement. She recorded herself and made a public statement. And I don't know if I've just like turned my feelings off on this case, and I have like no empathy for certain people that have, I don't know. So if we have enough time, we'll play that too, and you guys can tell me what you think. And I will, while the rest of this video plays, I want to see if I can find Kevin's interview again, because I watched that on a different platform earlier, or not Kevin's, but Kevin's lawyer's interview. No. The issue is that the majority of Utah is LDS and FLDS, and they're private people. They are, but the majority of the homes are practicing the same lifestyle, the same strict values, and like it's not just in Ruby Frankie's home. It's not just in Jody Hillebrandt's home. Oh, hi, Ruffles. So we're gonna finish this. While we're finishing this, I'm gonna look for the lawyer's interview so that we can play that at the end too.
So 6 charges of aggravated child abuse. That's what's on the table. I'm sure you're not a legal expert. I'm not either, but I've talked to a number of attorneys just kind of about this case, more about the hype of the case, because it's obviously gotten a ton of attention because of Ruby's profile, right? Because of the high profile aspect of the YouTube channel. And that's why I think it's interesting we're talking about Jody, because Ruby's got, as you mentioned, is getting the spotlight in a weird way. And Jody, as you mentioned, is behind a lot of the tactics. Do you feel like 6 felony charges, I mean, in your mind, is that enough punishment for what is alleged against them?
I mean, I don't think that it's the full scope. I mean, including my own child abuse that I experienced. I mean, I want justice and I want fair justice. So I want everything that she has done, that both of them have done, to be held accountable. Whether that be 6, 12, 18, however many, I just want to see that she is held accountable for the things that she has done. Because, but I personally believe that that is not covering everything that she's done. And I can say that because I know that she's not being held accountable for what she did to me. In the legal system, I mean.
How closely are you following this? Are you looking every day to see if there's something new that's put out? I mean, where is your mindset at with the case, so to speak?
Yeah, I'm not following it every single day. I'm trying to navigate just my own emotional safety in all of this. I'm trying to stay up to date. I have people that have sent me things that feel a little bit more safe in being more aware of what's going on. And so like when something big does come out, like with Ruby's accusations, I had someone sent that to me. And I was sitting in the parking lot of Lowe's and I started having a panic attack because it was just so directly similar. I mean, the exact thing. This is exactly what she does. This is what Jodi does. And so now, because she's painted him as this thing, regardless of what comes out, like he's no longer, I mean, I think hopefully the public can see through this and the judge can see through this. But that's the goal, is so that anything that he says is now no longer credible.
What do you think the public will ultimately take away from these two as it pertains to the court proceedings and such?
I mean, I just hope that Jodi is not sidelined in this, because she is so connected to what is happening. And yes, Ruby needs to be held accountable because she made those choices. She's just as guilty. But Jodi's been doing this for much longer and has patterns and history in this. So I just really, really hope that, yes, Ruby is the focus because of her high profile and because they're her children. But those children were, as far as I'm aware, I hope I got this right, were in Jodi's care. Like, this isn't, I just so hope that even though Ruby's the focus, I just hope that Jodi is not, that she's not able to slink away and just kind of fade into the background, because she's the foundation.
Okay, so that was what Jesse had to say, and you can take what you will with it. It totally solidified my suspicions of the situation, and shame on the church. I mean, okay, Jodi, well, you want to teach this shame. Well, shame on you, shame on the church, shame on everyone that has protected you all of these years and allowed you to brainwash and manipulate and ruin so many lives. If one of my mods doesn't mind, can you please drop a trigger warning for me? Because I'm about to talk about a few things that need a trigger warning. Yes. 6. I know 6 doesn't sound like a lot, but the 6 charges are a lot. And facing 90 years, like, it is a lot. Justice, I have no, I mean, it's Utah, you guys. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's liable to be a slap on the wrist at the end of this, you guys. Yeah. So with the trigger warning is for a few things. We're talking some serious allegations here with abuse. But I want to, like, Jody is not just about like teaching how to raise your children. Like, she's also like, people use her as like the church marriage counseling, that's one therapy that is offered through her services. There is when someone is addicted in any, whether it be drugs, alcohol,
Yep.
adult recreational activities.
Oh.
Yes, MJ, there's a lot. And we're going to watch one more video of someone else who was, well, actually, there's a YouTuber who is telling his story as well, but I haven't got to sit down and watch his complete, what he has to say completely yet. I've only seen a little bit of it. So I'm not going to play that yet, but I do want to like talk about some of the things that Jody used as punishment for not only children, but for husbands, which is weird. Like, do the wives and mothers not, or do they not have shame? Do they not do they not live a life of distortion there, Jody? I'm like, literally, like, it is not just the man's problem or the man's issues. But one thing that is big in connections is if you are having to satisfy yourself, catch my drift. I'm trying to be careful of how I say these things. If you are practicing self-gratification, I guess, one of the things that Jody does for punishment to those husbands and to those children that are practicing these things, but if you are a husband who is taking care of your own business, she has you sent out of the home. She has you sent away where you have no communication with your family, your children, your wife, none of that. Like, because sending you out of your home is going to stop you from taking care of your business, okay? Because that makes a whole lot of sense. So keep that in mind in this next person as we talk about the next person. Jesse's story was sad, but
Yeah.
this gentleman's story is sad too. Like, he didn't have, I mean, obviously he wasn't a child, so he didn't have to go through the physical abuse that was given through Jody, but there's still a lot of things that happened to this gentleman, and it is horrible. His whole life, his whole family, everything. And this is the one that reported her to the board about patient confidentiality that caused her to lose her license at one point. And you guys, I am going to drop this link because we are not going to sit here this long and watch all of this. I just want you to guys, I mean, like, I would highly suggest that you take and go and watch this interview on your own. It's long. Like, take a few days and just go through it. Because Jesse's story was crazy, but this is, yeah, this is this one beats the cake. if your kids are watching, then you might want to remove them. You might want to turn it off for a few minutes until they are not in the room.
Church, and I'm guessing that Jody Hildebrandt and her organization connections were referred to the Frankie family probably by their Mormon bishop. But once Ruby Frankie and Jody Hildebrandt started working together, it appeared as though Ruby Frankie's rhetoric got more and more extreme. She started talking about depriving her children of food, her son of a bed, and just using more and more extreme kind of hyper-Christian fundamentalist language. And long story short, this ended with the Frankie husband sort of being marginalized from the YouTube channel. Viewing this episode. Also, I should say that Adam Paul Steed's story is about to be big along.
Yeah.
Your part of the Jody Hildebrandt story along with your own story.
Thank you.
Feel free to correct anything I got wrong or
yeah,
anything you'd rather state differently.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still coming off of triggers and shock.
No worries.
I was getting in the car this morning with my sweet wife and little 2-month-old baby to go to our for our little doctor's appointment for our baby. And
Now, I do want to point out, he does come out of this trauma, and he comes back from what he goes through. So it doesn't end horribly for him. It sounds like it does, but it ends up getting better.
there was in our second down car garage where it's all secure with a gate and everything, there was a Band-Aid inside of its wrapper and on the windshield that said "You inbred ho" on it. And it's like they know where my wife and our little baby and us live, and it's a secure area. And it just was like, my first thoughts was a Band-Aid. So they're saying we're acting like victims, and then they attacked us. But the thing that was concerning is that my wife's been crying a lot today, worried that me talking about this could jeopardize her safety. She was already worried about this. And then that anyway, we've had a rough day. And, it's expected, I guess.
Well, this would be hard to talk about under the most ideal circumstances, but I can't imagine with the past week and Jody Hildebrandt being put in prison, it's now becoming a international news story.
Yeah.
And all that you've already experienced, it must be validating, but also very difficult to be reliving all of this.
Yeah. If anyone criticizes you as an interviewer for allowing an interview that triggers me, I just want to say ahead of time that's my own choice, because I don't want to live in a world that's a prison full of triggers everywhere. I'd rather talk about the truth and have the world come and help fix this. And to me, it's worth it. And so, how do you want to start? What do you want to ask?
Maybe if you are comfortable, let's start with your Mormon stories that relates to the Boy Scout abuse. If you're okay starting there.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people tell that story. The first reporter was Peter Zuckerman, who did the Scouts Honor Series that won a Scripps Award. I didn't know anything about that, but my dad said it was like a runner-up for a Pulitzer Prize, and it was stuff that helped change the world.
So your story regarding your Boy Scout abuse has been captured in a movie or a documentary, is that right?
It's been a couple. It was in Idaho Falls Post-Register. They were the smallest newspaper to win the Scripps Award as they expedited this crazy.
Okay, for you guys that are just coming in, we are watching someone speak out on the Jody Hildebrandt. Hold on, you guys. Let me refresh again.
Report later.
Okay, the ones that are just coming in, we are going deeper into the Jody Hildebrandt, Ruby Frankie abuse. So this, we've already watched Jody's niece speak out, and now we're watching this gentleman whose story is horrible. What she done to him and his family, and oh, it's horrible, you guys. But this is the beginning of his story and how his story began. It actually started when he was a kid. So let me see if StreamYard will stop playing stupid. Okay. I don't know if maybe there's just too many people on the Wi-Fi right now, or if it is a StreamYard thing. I don't know. But anyways, so yes, this is another story from someone who had their life turned upside down because of Jody Hildebrandt.
It was called that. And then just recently, Netflix producer Brian Knappenberger and Laura Poitras, the lady that helped Edward Snowden come forward, she was executive producer on a Sundance film, The Church in the Fourth Estate. So it's been covered a lot by the press.
But I'm guessing that most of my listening
DJ,
audience
your
hasn't heard the
sister
story.
joined
So what
earlier?
if you wanted to summarize the story?
Yeah.
We'll try and include links to all those in the show notes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I see how it's connected, so I'm going to tell it. I was a victim of sexual child abuse. I was just like everyone else in Southeast Idaho, just about. I was Mormon. We were excited to go be part of scouting. I met Brad Stolz, the child abuser, at the church. He was 25. He was charismatic. He gave me a ton of attention, and ended up taking me to scout camp.
How old were you? About?
I was 14.
Okay.
And he picked me up all the time in his Toyota Tacoma truck and let me use his cell phone and got me food all the time.
Guys, I'm going to fast forward through this point. You kind of get an idea from a young age what he experienced through LDS and the Boy Scouts of America. I mean, the link is in the chat if you want to, but I don't want to watch this part again.
And it got all fucked up again. Like, I get called by my dad and he says, "Hey, this case is finally closed on these 2 victims of abuse." So
but it's because of him and his dad, they were able to change the statute of limitations in Idaho for this kind of abuse.
that happened. We changed the statute of limitations. Millions and millions of dollars of lawsuits and criminal and civil started coming forward in the state of Idaho. It was I think Idaho is the second biggest Mormon state, the second biggest, and in the works, something that came out really clear is this, this massive story that we didn't know. I mean, you just have no idea the scope. We never thought. And And she called back in tears saying she had called her parents to announce our engagement, her parents in Holland. And at that moment, they were at the dinner table with Elder Helam's family talking about how terrible I was as a person. Just all these terrible things about my family and everything. And her parents were like, "We're so glad you're not getting married to this guy." And then she didn't even know how to tell them she just got engaged. And she called me back in tears and she was, "What do we do? I don't know what to do." And we ended up getting married outside of what they wanted. And
But also her dad got called
There's-
suspiciously as
there's
an area
something
authority by
better
Hillam.
I never put that link together, but I know that calling happened when I first met, just right after I met my wife, just not long after I met her.
Because I mean, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking this is very conspiracy theory kind of minded.
I
but
don't think the timetable of me meeting my wife and dating would have given Helam enough time to call him. I think he'd already called him.
As an area authority.
Before, yeah, because early in our dating, we went to temples, or when he came over to be at the conference where he came over to become an Area 70. I saw her parents for the first time,
Okay.
and we hadn't been dating very long.
So he became an area authority while you were dating her.
Yes, and
Okay.
and the thing was then, we went through this real rocky engagement with just tons of trauma with her family trying to end the engagement. And then finally they agreed, and we come over and seen them in Holland several times and tried to be real peaceful and everything. And so we get to the temple day where her whole family and her dad and her mom and everyone were there, and we were just getting ready, and the temple sealer at the Idaho Falls Temple, Elder Groberg, was 45 minutes late, and we didn't know why. And then we got married, and there was a bunch of stuff going on. My wife then was super upset. I don't know everything that her parents were telling her. It was a really rocky beginning. Later, after all this stuff came out years later, the secretary to Elder Groberg had been in our family stake. She contacted my dad. She said, I have to tell you guys the truth about this. That day that your son was going to get married, Elder Helam called Elder Groberg and President Groberg of the Idaho Falls Temple and spent 45 minutes while he was supposed to be going to the wedding, trying to convince them to call the wedding off and not let it happen in the temple. And he said that he was telling him that this was this terrible kid at scouting that had lied about all these abusers and all this money and everything. And finally, Elder Groberg said, this is my temple and my calling. And after they got into a heated argument, this lady overheard. She said it was like a heated argument inside the temple in the office. And finally, he said, "This is my authority under my jurisdiction, and these people will get married." And he hung up the phone. So those are two pieces of how this guy influenced our life. We were married, and
So just to summarize, I just want to highlight this. You become a child whistleblower to a confirmed self-admitted pedophile.
yeah,
You work with your dad to change the state laws in the state of Idaho to protect children. And what you get from that is behind the scenes, high-level Mormon church leaders apparently do all they can to smear your name and to smear your family's name wherever they can.
well, we didn't understand why Elder Helam would do this, because he was called of God and one of the top. He had been I think. It's common in the Mormon church to say, the church isn't perfect, but the high ups, they know what they're doing. And this was the president of the first quorum of the 70. I thought a lot of the apostles would get called from that position. It was, if you look at it, actually, the apostles are kind of older in the presidency. Probably these younger people over the entire general authorities would be kind of like running the church facilities in a lot of ways. Although Helam was over the Sunday school books, he was over that for the whole church in the 90s and 2000s. I think I need to get the dates right. But I mean, and they're not, I'm sure, and this is kind of disturbing, that a friend of mine who had a top apostle in his family explained that the church on the inside, they purposely created extra boards so that it would be ambiguous whether it was the church leaders who knew all of God's truth, whether they would be responsible for the things, but that these people that the prophet would sit there and rubber stamp every decision, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And they didn't want anyone in the public to know that, because then it was nice that they were these auxiliary places in between, so that the ambiguity could blame it and the church leaders wouldn't be responsible for it. And that's what I heard from this person firsthand, that there was, all I know is there hasn't been accountability for how they work. No, it's all been secret. So we just have to fit these shattered pieces together.
Yeah.
Here's this top general authority, tried to stop the engagement, tried to stop the marriage in a crazy backdoors way that we did find out about. and then was the first person that my ex's and her dad went to when the Jody Hildebrandt case exploded in our lives for help.
Hmm.
And
Maybe we should back up. Should
Yeah.
we back up and talk about how you got connected to Jody Hildebrandt?
Yeah,
Is that the okay part in the story to do that?
yeah.
So how did you get connected? How and why did you get connected to Jody Hildebrandt?
I went to a bishop, Mormon bishop, was a BYU student.
How long had you been married? Do you remember?
We'd been married for 2 years and a few months.
So around what year would this have been? What year were you married? Do you
I'm
remember?
not good with dates, with trauma.
Oh yeah, of course. Do you remember what year you were married?
I promised that I would unremember my anniversary.
Yeah.
It was like in September of 2006, I think.
So this might have been
Or
2008.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, no, it wasn't that. My daughter was born in 2006 in November. It was, I think we were married in 2005 in like August.
Okay.
Ish.
So it might have been 2008.
Yeah,
Two
two
and a half-
years into our marriage.
Okay.
And now I had just, the scouting case finally picked up some steam, and we had the psych evaluation of the child abuse damage to me, and we were going into our settlement process, and it was reaching the middle of winter. So I was trying to finish up all my schooling. I
Settlement.
for
of-
this child abuse case in scouting, they take a long time.
So you were in settlement talks with who?
I was in the settlement talks before I met my wife. I
With the Boy
married her.
Scouts or the church or both?
Before I met my wife at Brigham Young University, my ex-wife, and then I met her, and then we went to get married, and she knew about the scouting settlement coming up.
So you were settling with the Boy Scouts of America?
So we had a case against Boy Scouts of America. It wasn't settling. I don't remember at what point we had decided to settle. I mean, we were building a case, but it was 2 years into my marriage when we suddenly went, had the psych evaluation with Marilyn Moody Brown in Boise, Idaho, about the damage that happened to me. And I was a pretty resilient, optimistic guy. I want victims to know they can get their life back. And if someone says it's better to die than to be sexually abused, that's not a person that was sexually abused. It's an outsider. You turn your life around and live and make a great life forward. So anyway, but we
I mean, just listening to him try to have these conversations, you can tell how horrible the trauma was that he experienced. And the beginning of his marriage was already set up for failure. The first 2 years he's dealing with, trying to process and settle with what oh, thank you, Buttercup. Thank you. It's the luck of the iris. I don't have the Irish accent. I'm sorry. I totally butchered that. But you can literally just watch him and listen to him as he tries to remember and talk without getting too overworked, I guess is the best word for it.
We were up in Idaho and we had that report, and that report was really damning towards the child abuse scouting was trying to cover up, and the trauma and the damage it caused my life kind of was equated to a money value in a settlement process. How bad is this kid damaged? How much counseling does he need? This is how much we should give him. And so we finished the scouting settlement. I desperately just wanted to get back to my normal life. And I remember I was in school in the fall, and I did this report near the end of fall, and I started missing finals and stuff because there was a lot of trauma around sharing all the abuse that happened in this extensive way with I think it was 50 pages long, and very professional people that knew how to handle this, the doctor, and they gave that report. So
Are the terms of the settlement private?
Yeah.
Okay. I would
Yeah,
expect so.
they had us sign on like how much money we can't talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a punitive damage case.
Right.
and I think the report made them realize how much they had liable, and so somewhere around sometime, we changed these statute of limitations. That also showed that now if the state has changed their laws for statute of limitations, they don't have a strong case against us if everyone in the state has come to terms with the truth. And
Yeah, MJ, I'm with you. I wished I had time marked, times, wrote down the timestamp of when he really starts talking about the issues that he encountered with Jody Hildebrandt. And I didn't do that. And this is a 5-hour, almost 6-hour long interview. And we don't have the time, energy. I did drop the link. You guys are more than welcome to kind of just watch it over the next couple of days, because I don't know exactly where the Jody Hildebrandt stuff is. And so we'll watch for a few more minutes, and then I want to talk about Kevin and the sisters.
And so we finished this case, and we settled. When we got the settlement, I was through winter or January or something during that year. I got behind in school because of this trauma of giving this report. I had all these deals with teachers that we'd work it out, and we had more time, and I was just busy trying to work on that, but it was real difficult because of what had happened. And then we got this settlement, and I remember when I was talking. So we get into this therapy group. Jody's really charismatic. My wife starts just loving it. I'm excited she's getting help.
Video, you guys.
And some of the personal issues that she had struggled with. And I didn't originally mind the strictness with the group because I thought that, it was therapeutic to, there was a lot of guilt and shame behind masturbation and pornography in the Mormon church. I mean, I had a lot of guilt and shame. I mean, as a kid growing up, I had discovered masturbation a few weeks before I met Brad Stolz, and just on my own quietly. And I always believed that God sent this pedophile into my life to punish me because I was a sick person. I had a lot of guilt and shame, and I was I was good everywhere else in my life. But inside I had this one area that, in my childhood mind was basically.
He believed because he used self-gratification that he was supposed to be abused. That is,
if you look at a woman and you lust after her, that's the same thing as committing adultery in your heart. That's like a teaching in the New Testament or something. And then other scriptures that said that committing adultery was the same thing as next to murder. You do the spiritual geometry in an innocent child's mind, and you keep struggling back and forth with, I remember, I think it was Cindy Crawford on the underwear section of Sunday Paper. That was I tried to resist, but I couldn't, sneaking in the bathroom, looking at this and discovering masturbation for the first time. That was my deep, dark secret. And I was scared to death to talk to anyone about it. It certainly wouldn't have been something I would have shared with anyone at that time in my life. I was 16, I was 14 then, 13 and 14, and I was 16. I finally came to terms that I could talk to my bishop about it and confess. It was a huge thing. I think my parents thought I might have been bipolar at the time because I would have depression during certain times of the week, but I think it had to do with how many days after the Sunday Paper came out, and in the same cycle that I always went through, hating myself for this problem and trying to do better, and by a few days forgetting about it and being a happy person. And, looking back, I believe that was innocence. But yeah, so I grew up, and it's interesting. I will interrupt for a second. I was reading these notes of Jody Hildebrandt telling the Honor Code Office about me. And the Honor Code Office, Ed Morin's writing in these notes what Jody tells her. And he's also writing in the notes what my ex-wife tells her. And he says the bold is what my ex-wife says. The other stuff is Jody's. There's this huge amount of stuff in there. It's interesting how Jody starts out in the honor and those things saying that I was so dangerous and so scary. And she says in there, we should visit those actually. She says I was the most dangerous man she'd ever met in her life. And then later in the same notes, later on, she says I was just her garden variety addict. That she was starting to show how professional she was and how it's it's insane. But just want to go back. So I started this Lifestar program, and in the program there was couples. We were all couples, and I thought it was like marriage therapy. And right away in the beginning, Jody was just like, there's a couple of doctrines that she just started just reinforcing all the time. And I want to point out that Jody moves the real world into an abstract of like doctrines and teachings that she just goes over all the time. And if somebody hurts somebody, they don't talk about how they hurt and who they hurt and how to make it better. They talk about like an addiction in your head and a problem and self-denial and codependency, and nobody's talking about what actually happened to the person. Nobody's helping make things better. Jody's not meeting with you and asking you much about your personal issues at all. She was. I later learned using the group sessions to ask us for personal sessions. I heard that was unethical to solicit personal counseling in a group session. That's what I think that's what I remember. But she was just, she had you in these groups of people and they're laughing and she's funny and she's nice and she's just like her little co-host self, helping people say things they can't say, finishing sentences for people. And anyway, we like Jody. I was telling Bishop Olson, hey, this is a great lady. We should have her come to the church and get everybody in this group. She's got a hand on this stuff. She knows how to make everything go away, that you never have an intermittent porn or masturbation problem again. She's got this. She's super charismatic. And they set up, Bishop Olson set up to have her come for it was like a state conference or something to speak so that everybody could come to.
And just like that, Jody manipulated her way into the church.
Come to Jody Hildebrandt. And, it was like we're in this group, and then they separate us into the girls only group and the guys only group. And then things start to take a really dark turn.
How so?
Well, so it's if you've looked at porn or masturbated, and I think, and in all honesty, I had looked at probably about 2 hours of pornography collectively in my entire life.
Up to that point.
Up to that point, yeah. It got a lot worse the last 2 or 3 weeks of my lifestyle with Jody.
Because he has watched 2 hours of corn. Use your rhyming words, kids. 2 hours of corn. He was made to believe that he was the scum of the earth. 2 hours. I'm not a big corn person, but I'm pretty sure that even I've surpassed 2 hours.
Jody, because at that time I had fought it. We'll explain it. I looked at it. Sports Illustrated, Playboy, Penthouse, online, Googled it, then called a bishop immediately. I think it was a cry for help. At a certain point when my mental health was really at a low, where if I kept following this, I knew it would destroy me. So the one thing I knew though is I knew I always told the truth. And if you haven't been able to never masturbate again when you promised yourself as a 14-year-old you never would, and you did it again, and then you tried not to over and over, at least knowing that you always tell the truth is really important to you. It's like I can't quite fully stop this problem, but I know that
I hope that he has had the correct therapy and has been given everything that he needs to understand that there's nothing wrong with him as a man. Even if he enjoyed taking care of his own business, he did not deserve what he had to go through at 14. And it didn't stop there for this poor man. Adam, Adam, I'm sorry you had to go through what you've gone through.
that I'm an honest person. And Jody took that away from us in our marriage. I was always honest with my wife 100%. I felt terrible if I accidentally looked on something. And there were several times in my marriage where I confessed to her that I Googled something and I looked at it for 20 seconds or 30 seconds. And then I felt terrible. And then I called her. I was insecure and I was trying really hard to do this. And And also later I realized that I had a little bit of PTSD, and it helped me feel like I was normal if I looked at a beautiful naked woman versus the PTSD I felt like I was running from. I needed help of a different kind. I didn't need to join a cult. But so I talked to, well, near the end, it got really, really bad, and all these arguments. And the last, since my wife started with Jody was like right when we got pregnant with our second baby. So it was like 9 months of Jody in therapy, and culminating with the baby being born and her running into hiding 3 weeks after our baby was born with the kids disappearing, and our 1-year-old baby and our 3-week-old baby, our 3-week-old baby with Jody, but right up a little bit right before that happened.
Yeah, can you take us to what led to your wife running away?
There was just, my wife started confronting me on all sorts of behaviors and using that abstract language Jody would use. I had to violate and start talking it all out verbally. And
I think the term is distortion. Are you in distortion?
Well, yeah, let me self-denial about addiction and minimization and
because we just interviewed Jessie Hildebrand, Jody's niece, who lived with Jody.
Yeah.
And Jody would accuse Jessie of horrific things when she was just like a 15, 16-year-old girl, very innocent, devout Mormon. Jody would accuse her of abortions and having sex.
Oh, that lady's going to go to hell. I'm sorry. She lies. She makes it up. Jody's like Ted Bundy. She's pathological. Ted Bundy's got that smile where he's just, nobody can get their head around what he does when they look at his.
You heard it there first, you guys. She's going to hell. He compares her to Ted Bundy. So that, I think we're going to, sorry. I mean, it's exactly what I've said a few times, not publicly, but I mean, go at them for nailing the truth out there, putting it out there. So is Daisy and Micah still here? Go ahead. So recap, we will, because there's just not enough time to get through this video. I will go through over the next week and like pull out the bits and pieces that are most important and kind of like put it together myself so we can just like go ahead and have the part that, okay, well, this might be something that you guys might need to hear and understand. And then, have that already prepared for you guys. And then we could just talk about or you can watch this. It will take you, Ellen, that's true. The link is in the chat a couple of times. You guys are more than welcome to check back and like watch it on your own, listen to it over the next week. This situation is just, it's horrible. And I'm sorry, but Jessie needs her justice too. Like, it's not just the Frankie kids. Like, and this is not the end of these stories, like I'm sure that there's so many more people to speak out. And I think that some statutes need to be changed in the state of Utah, obviously. But I don't live there, so I don't know what you do with that. But obviously you can't hide from it anymore. Like, the LDS is like gonna go away. Hold on. That's not what I want. Ruby, Frankie, sister. Hold on, you guys. I'm trying to pull up this because I want you guys to, well, while this is pulling up. So, Kevin's, we got a little bit more information on where's Kevin? Where's he been? Kevin was removed from the home 13 months ago. During that 13 months, as part of his what do you call, I don't even know what his rehabilitation process, he was not allowed to have any communication with Ruby and the children. They had certain certain times they would discuss what is happening in their marriage. At one point, Ruby said it wasn't never going to work anymore. And that was not that happened recently, like right before the abuse. He was hundreds of miles away. He is I'm trying to like summarize, you guys, because there's a lot more details than what I'm giving you. But he is trying to get the children. There's a lot in there. So apparently, the rumor that we had heard that Kevin had been removed for self-gratification seems to be the truth. So if you are a man, I don't suggest that you become LDS because you can't handle your business without being punished. Yeah, rehabilitation. Yeah, this is a sad reality that thousands and thousands of LDS victims face. It's not just the Ruby Frankies. It's not just the Frankies. So let's see if I don't want to do that. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna pull this up on my phone because it's TikTok on my computer is still being weird. So Bonnie spoke out. I'm live. I'm live. Okay.
Like a very impossible video to make. Like a very impossible video to make. I know that my words will be used against me. I also know that my words may help people understand me a little. I can only speak for myself, and I will only be speaking for myself, other than the judge has asked us not to speak on certain topics that I will not be touching on. What my family and I have gone through the last couple of weeks is the worst thing that has ever happened to us. I spent the first week in complete shock, where I felt my body and my mind and my emotions were completely paralyzed because of the just absolute shock of all of this. The more I learn, my feelings are turning more to anger. I am mad. I am mad at what has happened. I am beyond disgusted, and I feel like it makes me tremble. It makes me tremble because it is unheard of. It's truly unbelievable. Something that I pride myself.
How do you guys feel just from the first few seconds? I just don't feel it, you guys. I don't feel. Yes, I feel like it's heartbreaking, but I don't feel like she's sincere. I do not feel like she is sincere. I think she's saving face right now because she is being brought into the spotlight. Her methods that she used on her video vlogging, family vlogs, are the same that Ruby used until Connections. So, but in that whole video, she goes on to talk about how for the last 3 years, things changed. And it did not start until 3 years ago when Kevin and Ruby joined Connections with Jody and became the forefront. So, hey, Butterfly. I think, I'm not sure because Daisy and Micah and everybody left. I think Micah's supposed to be going, not missing. She's not supposed to be going missing. I think she's supposed to be going live at 10 my time, so Eastern Standard Time. Do not quote me on that, you guys. PJ, do you know for certain? I don't for certain know. Like I feel like everybody's like throwing it. I mean, and at this point, how do we know the truth? We have no way to know the truth, but I can tell you what Jody and Ruby put out is not the truth. There's that. Thank you guys for joining me and going deeper into this horrific story. Yeah, okay, so she is going, Micah is going live. It's a game, isn't it? So if you are ready to sit down and just relax and chill out and have fun with us, join us at Micah's. Yes, lots and lots of snake holes. It's not even a rabbit hole anymore. It's crazy. And Buttercup, thank you for coming and joining us. We don't always cover these trigger warning stories, but I'm invested in this story. So, all right, you guys, we'll keep going. We have court next week. So, of course, we got to keep following along and see what happens. And I can say we will not be hearing from the children anytime soon. Sherry was speaking out, and now she has decided to take some privacy and do some healing. And I can't blame her because there are things that Sherry does and says in the videos that are coming back to haunt her, as well as, I mean, like because one person done something in the family, everybody's going to be looked at under a microscope. So the children that are of legal age, I don't blame them for going private at this point in time. So, all right, you guys, I will see you all shortly over at Micah's. I love y'all.